So 3, 2, 1. Welcome everybody to another episode of the LOF podcast. Chuck is back. Yeah, Chuck. So we're going to be jumping on into a well-requested topic. So we're going to be covering COVID. We're going to be covering more so how fitness applies to that, both on the immune system as well as mental health. And I've got a few kind of scholarly articles we dug up that's relevant to each one of these categories. So if you guys want to see that, you can check the resources. I'll put them below in our comments and description section. And before we even jump on into that, Chuck, the nutrition course is going down right now. We're live. So if you guys want to get in on that, you can get on in it below. We still have all of our resources, again, links. And now having plugged that and said that, let's jump on into it, dude. I like the shirt, by the way.
Yeah, it's Flannel Friday, just so everybody knows. Flannel Friday. So we are recording this on Friday. Anyway, question for you, Mike. How is your nutrition reset going?
It's good. It's good, especially as I've mentioned to you off camera. I'll be honest with you guys, and again, I like to be very transparent with our audience. I have gotten to probably my heaviest weight since our wedding. I always have a threshold and a cap. And it's usually around I think we got married at when we got married, I was at 210, somewhere around there. It's like 205, 210 range. And I was pushing that at 212 when we started the nutrition course. This is week number 2. And I was at the highest body fat percentage that I've been since probably I was 16, at 24% when I started this nutrition course. And as we've discussed, Chuck, I had some unhealthy habits I was digging into. So that's why I think it's so important to do this on a quarterly basis.
We're not going to call you out on those unhealthy habits because you and I spoke about it. And we all know that they were pretty unhealthy. So let's just say I'm glad you hit the reset button and I'm glad you're feeling better. And I'm glad it's going well. So great.
Thank you, Chuck. Yeah. And honestly, again, you can kind of see being able to at least I can see, I should say, being able to do that, it allows to just change the body composition almost instantly, at least for me, because my body kind of knows what's up. It's been pretty adaptive to it at this point. So I've already dropped down over 1%. I'm back down to 23.2, still very high, working down towards it. And also I've been able to maintain my muscle tissue thanks to also I've been implementing our 8-week to shred program, which you are the main programmer and writer of. So that's a nice plug for that. We're going to get that going as well. And pointing it to you, Chuck, talk to me about your nutrition reset so far.
Well, I'm going to let you know the first week was tough for me because we timed it a little off kilter when my end of quarter was happening. So as my stress level went up, my caffeine intake was nil. So it was a very difficult week to get through. Not being able to have caffeine or honestly animal proteins. But honestly, I got through it. I ended it a little earlier than most people. I ended it one day earlier, but had a very good week and going into 100% clean eating, also having a very good week. However, I didn't really drop a lot of weight. I didn't drop a lot of weight at all. Honestly, the scale has gone a little bit up for me during this program. I'm not gonna flex on everybody. That would just be rude. But I can tell that my body comp is changing. My abs are starting to become more prevalent again. And I integrated a little device by the name of Lumen. And I'm not gonna plug it yet, but it's given me some good data to look at. And it kind of is highlighting to me how my metabolism is working, which I've just been using it for a day now. And I've got some pretty good insight from what I assumed my body was doing to getting some real data behind what it actually is doing. So it's been giving me some good insight and ways that I can kind of change my diet up going forward. It's been pretty good.
Yeah, I love that point of leveraging data and devices. And we're always constantly, just so you guys know, before we even bring something to you guys, we're constantly experimenting with it. We're challenging it. We're also trying different, not only devices, speaking of devices, like me using my motion tracking camera right now. Check this out. Watch, I'm going to move on you guys. Oh, and the camera's moving with me. So just trying to invest in different things. Like this is great for training and fitness, which we're going to talk about, digging into the impact that's going to have on the immune system as well as mental health. But even when it comes to the nutrition, trying different things to, again, set not only us up for success, but if it's something that works and we believe in, to share it with you guys as well.
Absolutely.
So knowing that and having said that, let's dig on into. So we again, we have a couple more articles we're going to be referencing on this particular podcast because there's some data points that again go even outside my particular expertise and Chuck's, in the sense of like, we're not endocrinologists, we are not scientists doing the actual research, so we're just going to be referencing and utilizing the research that's already out there. And the first thing I wanted to start with, and Chuck, tell me if you're on board with this, is going to the first topic of two components of training and the impact it's going to have on the immune system. And then we can look at the impact it'll have on mental health as well. Because those are the two things we wanted to talk about, especially with COVID being a variable. It's something that we're seeing a lot of. And it was honestly when we asked this on social media. So also, fun fact, if you guys want to decide what we're talking about, follow us on social media. Again, we have all the information below in our link tree and the resources there. Follow us. We put up polls so you guys can actually decide on the podcast topic we talk about for the following week and the weeks ahead. And this was the most demanded one I think that we got, honestly, out of all the polls that we've put up so far. So digging into that, we're going to start with the exercise piece. And one thing that I thought was really interesting, looking at the immune system, and when we were looking at both the impact of, they broke it down into two categories: cardiovascular training as well as muscular endurance and resistance training. And I'm going to scroll down. So I'm looking at right now the name of the article. So if you guys want to see it below and kind of follow along, it's the relevance of physical activity and lifestyle on the immune system and immune defense, and ultimately mitigating disease burden with the focus on COVID-19. Very long title. Obviously, this is not in the media world. This is more so in the research world. And they have long titles like that. So we're going to scroll.
Yeah, Mike, you lost me on the title. You just lost me on the title completely. Let's just call it for what it is. I mean, ultimately, rather than getting too technical and digging into a lot of like the scientific, research and stuff, honestly, let's all look ourselves in the mirror and honestly say, when we work out, do we feel better? Right? Ultimately, we feel better, our immunity system is boosted, and our mental stability kind of levels off. Now, why? What is the one main thing that during COVID happened? They shut gyms down, right? Boom, shut gyms down. Looking at the overall aspect of things, smart idea, yeah, to protect people and the spread of it, yes. But it was never really discussed about how physical fitness can help boost your immunity system and help balance out mental stability. Was never discussed. Now, how many people that were complete gym rats and are constantly incorporating a daily fitness regime into their lifestyle, how many people adhered to like the CDC guidelines of not going to a gym or not working out? I know I worked out the entire time. I know you did. I know various people did. That's where the birth of your gym and my gym came about. But I know there was a lot of gyms during that time period as well that stayed open and were servicing, their clients. There's a reason behind that. That being said, what's the scientific data say, Mike?
Ooh, so that's a good question. It's interesting to look at both the acute side and the chronic side. Fancy words for like short term, like right after workout per se, and then the cumulative long-term aspect of it. So one of the interesting points that the data says is when we look at our immune system, first and foremost, not just specifically with COVID, just as a broad spectrum, when we are working in both cardiovascular and cardiovascular training as well as resistance training, just exercise in general, it has an increase in plasma levels of a inflammatory fighting protein enzyme. And then on the flip side of this is the other one: a sedentary lifestyle and low levels of physical fitness are associated with increased plasma levels of pro-inflammatory cytokines. I can get into all the different names. Again, check the resource. I'm not going to list them all off. If you guys really want to dig into it, it provides each one of them in the scholarly article. But so there's, again, this inverse relationship. Fancy way of saying when you exercise and you stay active, your immune system is stronger, more active, and it is prepared to handle a situation that is threatening it. And again, to this point, this is when we look at where it was most impactful, according to the data, CDC, and the research that came out with it. 55 and older were the most vulnerable to not only COVID, but fatalities that could be associated with it, as well as the myocardial infractions and the impact on the heart, impact on the lungs. And when you're staying inactive, you're staying in a bed because you either got COVID or you're avoiding COVID, you're not moving as much, you're then that much more susceptible, and the long-term effects of what it could have if you did get it will be that much worse. So having said all of that, to your point, Chuck, being able to go to the gym, being able to stay active, whether it's doing resistance training, whether it's doing cardiovascular training, hopefully you're doing both, there was a net positive impact. And that's the biggest takeaway message for me, at least on the immune system side. Now, there was also some interesting data on the mental health, which we'll get into next, but I wanted to just kick it to you before we jump ahead and get your thoughts on that too.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you, and I've been honest with you in the past regarding this, when COVID initially struck, me having the gym and my fitness, regime and my daily schedule, when the gyms shut down and not being able to do jujitsu and not being able to go to the gym, I think it was 2 months into the shutdown, the lockdown, I mentally was at my worst. I was completely depressed to the points where I was reaching out to my jujitsu instructor, trying to come up with a solution so we can get back into it, because my mental health was at an all-time low during this period. And I needed to come up with solutions to repair that. If I'm not working out, if I'm not being physically fit, my mental stability goes down, my depression goes up. The chemistry of the brain, because I'm releasing endorphins and the gym is that happy place for me. If I'm not there getting that mental chemistry going when I'm working out or when I'm just creating things in the lab, I get depressed. And I'm sure it's going to happen for a lot of people. If this is part of your daily regimen and it's stripped away and it's not there for you anymore, you're going to have some type of mental feeling about it. You're going to feel a specific way about it. And that's definitely what happened to me during the first couple of months of the lockdown, to the point where we bought jujitsu mats and we were running classes in the backyard, and I gutted the garage, and the birth of my garage gym was born.
And that inspired me as well to be able to develop what we were doing here, and you guys have seen now in more of the exercise videos we're filming at our home gyms and seeing things, especially in our fitness vault, as well as the nutrition course. We're expanding upon that, and also is a great opportunity for us in that sense of it. So you mentioned the mental health side. So I wanted to dig into another one of the scholarly articles we have. And again, we're going to have this in the resources below if you guys want to just look at some of the extra data or things. But I think the biggest takeaway is sometimes there's a misconception too. From my experience, when I talk to new clients or potentially interested clients, or we talk to our coaches about it, and it's this idea that it has to be super hard, super intense, like heavy weight training sessions, or it can be intimidating. And one of the interesting things in the article that's out by the National Institute of Health, and again, this is exercise for mental health. That one's a lot easier of a title, right? It talks about doing as little as 3 10-minute walks can be equivalent to the same as a 30-minute walk, and doing that 3 days a week. So let's say if you have 3 10-minute walks throughout your day and you do that 3 times a week, or if we extrapolate that down, if we say, all right, we do 3 10-minute walks and we do that 9 times a week, so it's a total of 90 minutes of really like not that intense exercise, there was still a net positive impact on mental health. And I'm going to read you off. There's 9 benefits they saw that can have a potential health benefit. So improved sleep. And we know we've talked about in the past, Sleep can be a huge variable, not only in mood regulation, but also in appetite, whether suppressing or increasing our appetite when we're sleep deprived. Number 2, increased interest in sex, which, hey, sex drive is a very important thing for everybody involved, right? Like that's an important health balance. Number 3, better endurance in general, just so you don't get winded walking up a flight of stairs. That's just, I think, overall quality of life. 4, stress relief. Number 5, improvement overall mood. Number 6, increased energy and stamina throughout. Again, going back to quality of life. Number 7, reduced tiredness that can increase mental alertness. So if you're at work and you have to be paying attention to a meeting or this podcast, for example, or this video, you're going to gain more from it. Number 8, weight reduction. So if you just naturally not even care about necessarily changing your body composition, just by doing this, you're naturally going to regulate your weight a little bit. And the last one, reduce cholesterol and improve cardiovascular fitness. And that's just with walking. That doesn't even talk about being able to get resistance training on, doing interval-based training, more intense types of training. So just look at all those things and tell me that you wouldn't want to have those things in your life, and then just start adding walking in. Start with that.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people in my neighborhood, when the lockdown was happening, started doing more walking. And honestly, I mean, we've lived in our neighborhood for 15 years now, and we barely know anybody in the neighborhood. And then the more people that started walking around the neighborhood, the more friendlier people got, and the more we started to learn about people. So listen, a lot of what you just said out of those 9 categories that you just rambled off, the majority of them lead back to one thing: depression. And that's what I was picking up on what you were going over, these 9 things. There's a couple of them, a couple categories talking about weight loss and health in general, but a lot of them point back to depression. And as you can see, you know, a body in motion tends to stay in motion. A lot of that boils down to depression. If you don't feel good, you don't want to do anything. Depression is debilitating, and you don't want to move, and you're trapped in your own little world. And there's a lot of things that you just don't want to do. But incorporating something just like a walk, going out, getting some fresh air and moving your body has such a dramatic effect and influence on your body that it can help fight off that depression and improve on a lot of those 9 categories that you just went over.
So one more thing I wanted to dig into, and this one's more just an interesting one that I saw in one of the other articles I have below, and it's titled Cardiovascular Fitness, Muscular Fitness, and Mental Health in Older Adolescents, a Multi-Level Cross-Sectional Analysis. Again, fancy words. All it means is it looked at teenagers late in their teens, you know, between like 15 and 18. So this is one segment that, you know, honestly, we don't have a tremendous amount of teenagers that are listening here, but this is more for the parents out there that might have teenage kids, or for those that are listening, you know, starting to get into their later teens, they want to start developing muscle and things like that. You might start picking up on this stuff, but I think very much geared towards our parents out there that we have a lot of that can relate to this kind of area, this age group. And what they found, this one I thought was very interesting, is more so of an impact on cardiovascular and cardiorespiratory training compared to muscular fitness. Meaning if you were doing more aerobic based training, they saw a wider, deeper impact on mental health than on the resistance training. Now that doesn't negate fitness training, or I'm sorry, resistance training and weight training. There's still a benefit to that. And there's another analysis that we have that specifically digs into weight training and mental health. But I wanted to point this one out for, again, teens, because I know when I was 16, I started running almost every single day, and it felt amazing. And now looking at the science and the research behind it is the potential sensitivity in that age group you can have to aerobic-based training, and the also impact it can have. Now, they did it on 670 students across like 20 different schools, it looks like, when I'm reading the data. The deeper impact was more so in females than in males, which I thought was interesting as well, but they saw a bigger impact on females. So that's one thing. If you have, like, I have 2 daughters, right? Now they're only 3 and a year and a half, but I know 12 years from now, when they're getting into their teens and maybe they start to have to face some things that are challenging at school or in their life, or maybe they're just feeling depressed or things that are going on there, then I'm going to leverage this kind of information and not even say, hey, you should go for a run, but see if they want to get active with me, because I know that if I invite them into those kind of trainings and expose them to those things, they're more sensitive to it. Now, also, I don't have teenage kids, so I don't know what they're going to be like in 12 years. Chuck, you could probably speak to that more since you have an older daughter. However, I wanted to share that perspective with you guys, not to take away from weight training, because there is also, again, more research. We've talked about the benefits on it in other podcasts as well. We have that below. But I just wanted to highlight that for you guys in that age group for our parents out there.
Yeah, and I think that ultimately boils down to, again, going into chemistry and hormones in the body. You know, your typical male loaded with testosterone is going to be raw. I need to pick this stuff up. I need to pick stuff up. Strength training. That's where strength training comes into play. I don't know a lot of females that really super enjoy strength training. Is it necessary? Absolutely. 100% needed. But I don't know a lot of females that super enjoy it. It's a very small community that actually enjoy it. And I think that boils down to, again, hormones in the body and also stress levels. So, you know, again, I mean, granted, if it wasn't for women, you know, we'd be sitting in the corner trying to figure out where to go. You know, they run a lot of things in our lives, and it's very, very stressful. Kids, school, work, you know, managing a household, doing all this kind of stuff, you know, being organized and trying to have the plan in place all the time, stressful. Now add strength training to it. And what's strength training? It's strain, it's stress on the body. So they don't want to add that additional component of stress or strain on the body. And again, is it needed? Absolutely. If they want to hit goals and ultimately improve their body composition, strength training is 100% needed. But it's the cardiovascular training is more of a release. It's more of a de-stressor than a stressor. And that's the difference between the two. And that's why I think a lot of females tend to go more towards the HIIT classes, more towards the yoga classes, more towards the cardio sides versus the strength training. Again, I could be completely wrong. This is just my opinion, but I've seen it in 30 years of training. This is what I've seen over those 30 years. So I understand what that data and that scientific method was reporting to you, but also you have to look at it from their perspective as to what really you enjoy when you go to do your training. And ultimately, if you enjoy it, stick with it. Yes, it's great to incorporate. Hey, I hate cardio, but I have to do it in order for me to hit my goals. So I love strength training. Could be vice versa. I know it's definitely vice versa for Pina. She loves cardio training. She despises strength training. So whatever you find, whatever your niche is, whatever you really enjoy with your training, just do that and sprinkle in a little bit of the alternative training into your plan.
And that's also a great kind of or at least a plug really quick, because next week's episode, we're going to dig into how to find exciting workouts and exercise protocols that you'll enjoy and then continuously be able to evolve that. So we won't get into that too much more here, but there's one last, article or at least piece I wanted to touch on, because you talked about this, that which is a great point I never actually really thought of, Chuck. So I wanted to just highlight how awesome it is what you just said to everybody. If you're kind of, maybe new to the thought process like I am even here. So that idea of chronic stress, of constantly have to managing all these variables, and then wanting to add in another stressor potentially on top of that can just feel so overwhelming or just something that's undesirable. And this is interesting. So the last piece that I wanted to add in the article that we have, and we'll have it below, is mental health benefits of strength training in adults. And looking at the impact that they did in the study is how strength training influences anxiety, chronic pain, mental cognition, like how your brain works, depression, fatigue, self-esteem, and sleep. And then it digs into some more things on it and having a positive impact on those things. And again, we talk about acute stress versus chronic stress. Chronic stress being like, I got to get the kids to school. I got to do all this every single day. The acute stress is from a workout and a weight training session, which will be net positive for us. And then it can even have a positive impact on the chronic stressors and being able to adapt to those, respond to them, and feel better about them. So I just wanted to highlight that. And I kind of figure we'll wrap it up with, Chuck, to give everybody some more, even though we kind of touched on the actionable steps, I wanted to just kind of recap it with giving people 3 simple actionable steps. So I'm going to give them my 3, and I think ours are probably going to be somewhat similar here. I'll go first, and then I'm going to put you on the spot so you have a little bit of time to come up with 3 for yourself. So I figure I'll go first, though, to buy you some time.
Go ahead.
So we got 3. 1, just like we talked about earlier in the article, get your walk on 30 minutes 3 times a week, whether that's in a 30-minute chunk and you do that 3 times a week, or it's in 10-minute chunks and you do that 9 times a week. So that means you go for 9 10-minute walks, however that fits into your week. That's number 1. Number 2, be able to add in resistance training, whether that's with weights, whether it's with resistance bands, whether it's body weight even, whatever you have access to, start to incorporate that into your training to then balance out the cardiovascular side along with the muscular fitness side. And number three, even to your point, Chuck, pick things that are enjoyable as possible. And again, we'll even kind of extrapolate upon that next week in our next episode where we talk about finding those enjoyable activities and how that fits into our routine. So those are my three. What you got, Chuck?
All right. So number one, I'm going to change up Mike's three a little bit, and I'm going to just refine them just a tad because a lot of people aren't ready for strength training. So number one, I agree with the walk 100%. And if you don't just enjoy going for walks, you want to get a little bit more, add some little fun to it. Go on family hikes or just go on a hike. Download the All Trails app, and it's local to wherever you are, and it'll tell you where you can go on hikes and trails in your area. If you don't just want to walk around the neighborhood, go on hikes. Try to incorporate that into your plan. Instead of going all in with the strength training, let's start with stretching. Isometric hold stretching. So if you're not really keen on picking up weights and incorporating strength training, let's start training our body with stretching and some isometric holds while we're stretching. And that will start your path to being able to want to get into a little bit of strength training. And number three for me is not so much just on the training aspect of it, but let's look on the nutritional aspect of things. I want you to take a look at what you're eating and try to cut out refined sugar. Those are my three things that I really think that can start you on a healthier path and get you geared up to long-term success in your fitness goals.
Oh, those are powerful three, Chuck. So I got to give you 100% on that one.
Oh, I was waiting for 100%. I didn't hear it in this podcast at all.
I wanted to make them count.
That's great. I was actually going to say something. I didn't hear 100%, but there we go. We got 100%.
Had to sprinkle it in there just the last minute. So I figure we're gonna leave you guys with that, so we don't kind of overwhelm. Because you know I like to rant, so I don't want to even feed into getting into some more ranting. And again, guys, you have all the resources below, not only the articles, the scholarly articles we talked about, but all the different programs and options that we have. We have them below. We have them in our link tree. You can check them out. If you guys enjoy this, please make sure you're not only liking the video if you're seeing it on YouTube, but you're subscribing so you can see more content. Or if you're just listening to the podcast, if you're not following already, please follow and leave a review. Let us know if you liked it, you don't like it, all that kind of good stuff. And with that being said, I'm going to kick it to you, Chuck, to finish us up here.
Yeah, I'd really like to hear some reviews and some critique from our viewers and our subscribers. And ultimately, I'm glad I got the 100%, but I'm going to throw 100% out there and say, no matter what you want, no matter what your goal is, you 100% need to just make a change. Start with one, and then from there, incorporate more. I mean, there's not a single person out there that's 100% happy with where they are right now. We always have to have goals in our life, whether it's career goals, whether it's health and fitness goals, whether it's family goals, whether it's financial goals. We're 100% driven as human beings to want more and to make changes. I know Mike and I talk a lot about fitness and nutrition because that's what the podcast is all about. So let's 100% make a commitment to ourselves to make at least one change.
A slow clap right there, Chuck. All right, so we're going to leave it on that. Again, take care, guys. Everything's below, and we will see you on the next podcast.
Take care. Be safe.
Let me hit. Ba-bams.